Today is the first episode of my 5-part series called AI, the missing link to our government's surveillance and censorship state. To start making sense of it, we have to start at the beginning and speak about a company called Palantir, who they are and what they do, and especially why you should care. Welcome to the Political Orphans. My name is Nico Lagan. As always, on Sundays, I'm joined by my co-host, Payman Ascari. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This should be an interesting one.
Hey, Nico.
What's going on, man?
Not much. So, I see you got a new camera.
I don't have a new camera. I have a new setting. I have a new setup where I have multiple cameras running. They're switching. I absolutely love it. We got to speak Palantir. I think a lot of people have heard the name of the companies. They might not know what it's all about, but it's important that we understand what Palantir is, what they do, and why you should care. Because in order for our government to be able to not only pass but enforce all the new bills they're trying to put through right now, we need AI. And not only do we need AI, but they need, when I say we, I don't mean me, I don't mean you, I mean our government needs AI. And not only do they need AI, but they need Palantir to do it. So this week, we're going to spend our whole week on explaining how AI is required for what our government is currently doing. So today, all about Palantir. Tomorrow, we speak about something called IoT, or the Internet of Things, which are all those internet connected devices you use every single day, and how Palantir needs IoT. On Tuesday, we're going to be speaking about which department at our government, from all levels, federal, provincial, and municipal, use Palantir and have Internet of Things devices watching you. On Wednesday, we're going to speak about the AI softwares and how they need massive data center in order to function. But not only do they need massive data center to function, why Canada is probably the best country in the world to build those mega data centers on Tuesday. And then finally, on Thursday, we're going to be speaking about how they all interconnect and how social media bans are needed in order to implement our government censorship and surveillance state through AI. It's a lot of information. I'm doing my best to keep it high level, but not too high level so that you guys actually understand. But I don't want this to feel like you're going back to school, although I might be bringing you back to school for the next 5 days, which very interesting. This is the first time we do this. We normally talk about the news, but not this week. We're going to be talking about what the news should be talking about. So let's start at the beginning. Who is Palantir? It was founded by two billionaires, Peter Thiel and Alex Karp. Palantir Technology is a publicly traded American company specializing in big data analysis, integration, and AI platforms. Here's where it gets interesting. Its software enables government, defense agencies, and commercial enterprises to consolidate messy, siloed data from various systems and use it to discover hidden patterns, manage operations, and make real-time decisions. That's a Google description. That's just a Google definition. I wanted to show you what Google says it means. But in a second, I will tell you what this whole word salad I just said actually means. But one thing that is worth mentioning before I do so is that Palantir is not like your regular AI softwares out there where they're what we call data broker. They take your information, they take the questions that you ask, and they sell it to marketing companies in order to be able to sell you products. But that's not what Palantir does. Palantir sells licenses to its software to clients that need to have their information organized. So by information, we're talking big data. We're talking vast amount of information that you and I cannot really comprehend. So it's important to understand the distinction between a ChatGPT, for example, that is a chatbot, and of course they're collecting information about you that they're selling to other companies. But Palantir is a completely different level to AI, and you'll understand why when we start talking about big data. You, for example, Payman, let me ask you this. When I say big data, again, that's a word we've all used. That's an expression we've all used. What does it mean to you, big data?
It used to mean lots and lots of information, like first name, last name, but now it's beyond big data. It's just unstructured data, all sorts of data.
Big data is pretty much everything you can think of. The thing is that it is pretty much what it sounds like. Big data, meaning a lot of data. But imagine it this way. Imagine that your Excel spreadsheet, for example, that you build on whatever information that you can fill in an Excel spreadsheet. Imagine that that's a bucket of water. Big data is so many buckets of water that turned into a never-ending water of information. So imagine a waterfall, never stops. The information is always coming. There's always a flow of information, and it never ends. But it's coming from millions and millions, if not billions of people with billions of devices like your phone, your laptop, your car, your fridge, anything that connects to the internet, which is pretty much everything nowadays. This is big data. This is literally, in the internet world, everything. That's what big data is. So imagine your spreadsheet times a billion, times 10 billion, times 100 billion. It's literally impossible for us to know how much data there is out there. There's so much of it, it never stops. It's never ending. It doesn't matter where you look, there's information being created, and because it's online, it is considered big data. So here's why big data is so important. I found a website that you're old enough to remember who IBM is. They used to matter in the computer world. They used to have very good computers. Not anymore, but back in the days they did. And they have a great website that explains what big data is. And as you can see on your screen, big data analysis allows for the uncovering of trends, patterns, and correlation in large amount of raw data to help analysis make data-informed decisions. So basically, see it this way. Imagine that you have so much data that you are capable of doing 4 things. You're able to predict, you're able to see what happened. So looking at the past and say, okay, this is what happened. Then you can look at why it happened. So you're looking at the past, you have all the information, you're like, okay, this happened. Why did this happen? Then you can start to predict what will happen next. And then the 4th stage is this is the scary one. This is the what to do stage, meaning what do you do with all that information once you understand what will happen. And this is where companies like Palantir are very good at. They look at what happened, they look at why it happened, they look at what will happen next, and then they can automate it. And this is what becomes extremely scary. And this is why speaking about Palantir is so important, because imagine that not only are they capable of predicting trends, but they can take decisions before the next trend. And this is why these type of softwares are, they scare the hell out of me. I got to tell you, man, the more you look into this, the more these type of softwares are, I don't know if evil is the right term, but they are scary as hell. Because imagine being able to look at the past, look at the present, and say, oh, okay, it happened. I understand why it's happening. Then I can predict what will happen next and then take decisions about the future today. This is basically why all the companies out there are all after big data, because they believe that they can literally predict the future by analyzing so much data. So do you are you starting to see where I'm going with this? Where imagine that a company like that sold services to governments, military agencies, and that's what they do. Those are their two main clients are governments, military agencies, defense agencies, and big corporation. This is who they sell to. And on Tuesday, we're going to go through it. I will show you all the departments in our federal level and our federal government that does deal with Palantir. But remember when I said earlier that Palantir is not a data broker? They don't sell that information. What they do is they integrate their software with existing databases. So let's say that you have a company that specializes in manufacturing. You can take Palantir software, give it access to everything that that company owns. Anything from data, from procedures, from workflow, from CRM, which is literally databases of their customers, their orders, their products, everything, their services that they sell. And Palantir is going to duplicate that entity. So they're going to take a real world information and they will create what they call a digital twin. So basically a virtual representation of a real life corporation, government entity, military agency or defense agency. And then they will give it access to users. Let's say you, for example, you work for the government, you use Palantir. So you have access to a digital copy of your whole organization that is bi-directional. And what I mean by bi-directional, it's not just operating by itself in the middle of nowhere. This is a virtual representation of a real company or a real entity, but they're both connected together. Palantir connects the real world to the virtual world. So the user that's using the virtual, or they call it the digital twin, can test applications, they can test new procedures, they can test new reactions to a potential accident. Let's say, what should my company do in the event that one of my machines on the factory floor stops working? What's my normal procedure? How do I deal with a broken machine that needs to be repaired? They can test new procedures in the digital twin. And once they say, oh, you know what, this is a good new procedure, it works, because it's bi-directional, it can implement those new procedures in the real world. So do you understand? I'm trying, this is, when you think about it, those are very complex softwares that they're running, but easily put, they basically specialize in vast amount of data, making sense of vast amount of data, organizing that data and connecting it all together. So you have a company and you've worked for the private sector. You know this. You join a company. They have a bunch of databases. None of them speak to each other. They all have pieces of information, and then you have people like you and I that are sitting in the middle that are looking at all those different databases in order to make sense of something. Imagine that Palantir comes in, organizes it all for you, connected it all together. Everything, when you think about it, it's very useful to have for any companies in order to make sense of their data. Because there's so much information today that I understand why the service actually exists. But let's put it in a real world application. We just had our census, right? So our government sent us forms that they gathered information on us. They were asking for our names, they were asking who we lived with, what their name is, their age, how many people lives in your house. Some people were asked their salaries, some people were asked how much their house is worth. A lot of invasive questions, right? Imagine Canada Revenue Agency, because I don't know if you remember, if you've seen the episode I did on the long form census, but it did stipulate in there that some of the information could be shared. Nothing that could identify you, but it could be shared. Imagine that CRA's databases were connected with Statistic Canada databases where the census is dealt with or issued and dealt with. Imagine that CRA's database was connected with Statistic Canada's database, and that they verified that the information that you provided in the census is the same as you provided on your taxes. This is what Palantir can do. And I can tell you, I worked with the federal government in the past. I worked with municipal, provincial, and federal governments. And I can tell you, their databases, at least 5 years ago, their databases were broken. Like, the departments did not speak to each other. They were siloed. Nobody talked to each other. If you needed something from another database, you needed to put requests and get phone calls and emails. You needed to get in contact with somebody that worked in that department in order to get information. Palantir can connect all those databases. We have something like more than 130 organizations / departments at the federal level. Palantir can come in and be installed on all those databases, organize them all, make sense of them all, connect them all by, let's say, your name. And then that information is searchable for the first time. Somebody, a user, could sit down, type Payman Ascari, and get the information from 130 plus organization at the federal level. That's just the federal level. This is what Palantir does. But there's one part that should scare the hell out of you, because up to now we're talking AI working for us, right? We're talking about AI organizing information and making sense of it, but you and I, users, would be using that information. Well, this is again where Palantir is very different from what's out there, because Palantir has something they call AI agents, which are intelligent, autonomous programs within Palantir's artificial intelligence platform. But unlike your basic chatbots, so your ChatGPT, your Gemini, your Grok, these agents can take decisions autonomously. They can retrieve data, stage recommendation for human approval, and execute real-world operation access or actions, my apologies, across an enterprise. Do you understand what this means? That you have AI agents that, although Palantir is saying that you should have a human being approving decisions before AI agents take those decisions, the point in the matter is that within their platform, Palantir could give permission to those AI agents to take actions in the real world without human interaction. Like, easy example for you to understand. Let's say I was using a manufacturer earlier. Let's say a manufacturing company has a machine on the factory floor that breaks down. An AI agent could instantly calculate the impact of those scheduled jobs, simulate a revised schedule, and propose an optimized workaround for human planners. So it sends it to Payment Ascari. Hey, that machine broke. This is what we should do in the meantime. That's one way they could do it. It's also possible for Palantir's agents to say, you know what? I'm gonna send an order in for somebody to come fix the machine. During that time, we're gonna reassign those orders or those tasks to a different machines. I'm gonna reschedule the whole working schedule because that machine is not working anymore, and I don't need human interaction. This is how powerful Palantir is. This is the type of software that our government has installed on their databases. Can you imagine? Like, I've watched enough sci-fi movies to see where this is going. I don't know for you, man, but having and this is the reality right now. Palantir's connected to government databases. What's the information that's in government databases? Your information, my information, your information. Can you imagine if AI starts taking decisions without human interaction? Can you imagine? But this type of stuff absolutely scared the hell out of me. Scares the shit out of me.
If I could jump in, a couple of things I wanted to point out. One is this has been going on for a while. So after 9/11, there was, I think it was a synthetic argument where they said, we have to merge the FBI and the CIA. Why are they not information sharing? For a while now, you have Oracle, which is one part of this, just this databasing. So you said big data, you need technology. This is a CIA thing. Everything is CIA. It gives regulatory relief. Facebook was another one. Google was another one. You create these like prison systems online where people get addicted to them. And then, as you mentioned perfectly, Nico, you went into great detail what Palantir is. Let's imagine if the government, Ottawa, wanted to derail the trucker convoy. We all saw what happened. They tried everything. They went after the Coots. They tried with the Nazi swastika, and it didn't really work. But with Palantir, they'll just say, there are, here's 250,000 video clips, identify who's in there, figure out their spending habits, and tell me how we can derail this. It'll come back and it'll say 75,000 of those protesters have children. Here's how you can bankrupt them and get their children taken away by the state. 100,000 have elderly parents. Using a technicality in the contract, we can get all of those parents kicked out of their old person homes. Like, this is frightening stuff.
Thank you for doing what you just did, because I was trying to keep it non to conspiracy. Like, I didn't want to go down the conspiracy road. I implied it, but you're absolutely bang on. Like, you can push this so much further. Imagine in a world where your government's databases are all interconnected. So no matter, I looked it up earlier, there are more than 130 different organizations / departments just at the federal level. Imagine that Palantir goes in and organizes all that information under one system. That is that virtual twin I was talking about earlier that understands, like, you don't, one thing you didn't even think about, that Those people have access to all that information. Palantir software have access to all the data that the federal government will share with them. All of it. All of it. I don't care that they don't sell it. They have access to it. Did you hear about Pokemon Go? This is a weird example if you don't know where I'm going with this, but did you hear about Pokemon Go? And what, so turns out that the guys that created this is brilliant. What they did is absolutely brilliant. Turns out that Pokemon Go is the most extensive live representation of the world. They were able to send people with their cell phones chasing images throughout the world. They mapped the entire world from millions and millions and millions of different perspectives. This is what Pokemon Go was all about, mapping the world. Imagine how much that data is actually worth to any company out there that delivers, that fixes, the government. Like, it's infinite what you can do with that information. That's what Pokemon Go was all about. It came out not too long ago. I think it was one of the founders that was laughing, saying that basically was the exercise. So they sold you a video game, the idea of a video game, to gather the most amount of data of world positioning. Imagine what the government, what a company like Palantir can do with the information of military agencies, defense agencies, federal government. Sure, they don't sell the data, but are you going to tell me that they don't have the data? It's their software. You're telling me that they have no way to access that information? This is the thing, right? We're giving access to third parties. And I didn't vote for this. I don't know for you, but I never approved of this. I never said yes to have a third party company come in and duplicate all the data that the federal government is ready to share with them in order to create a virtual twin of their database and interconnect them all together. Because imagine, you said Coots, you said the Freedom Convoy. Let's push your example further. Let's say that the government uses something in tech that we call geofencing, which is basically you could map out a virtual in a map. Funny enough, I was just talking about Pokemon Go, but let's say that the government could create what we call geomapping, or geofencing. Basically set up a virtual fence around the parliament. Say we're going to go a kilometer east, a kilometer west, a kilometer north, a kilometer south. In all of that, find me, they could ask our telecommunication company, find me all the cell phones that were part of this area at that time. Pull all the information that you can find. Because remember, guys, I talked about MAC addresses. Every single device you use has a unique identifier that can be traced to your cell phone, your laptop, your fridge, your TV. They can use a virtual geofence to say who was in that area at any given time. Map me all those people, find me the names of all those people, then pull all their records. As you said, I want to know their bank statement. I want to know what they do. I want to know what their responsibilities are. Do they have children? Have they broken the law in the past? What have they done? This is what AI is is capable of putting together. But imagine that you don't use users anymore. You don't wait on users to make decisions anymore. That you just write a rule, or you just give permission to an AI agent within Palantir to say, if that person was in that geofence for more than 2 hours, they were not just walking through it to get where they were going, they were obviously participating, disable their bank accounts. That's a rule that could, I'm not saying that rule exists. I'm just saying Palantir could give you that information because it gathers information from all databases, and it can be programmed to take decisions by itself without having a human component to it. Because we're always going to be the bottleneck, right? When it comes to technology, we're slow. Human beings were slow. But imagine you don't need human beings for those types of action. Is action the right term here? But see how deep that shit goes? Like it never ends. But I never voted for this. Were you ever asked if that was something you agreed with? Because I didn't, I wasn't asked.
No, definitely. I wasn't asked, but here's another way that the audience can think of it. This is a simple version. Imagine if for every single person that was at the Freedom Convoy, they had 100 RCMP officers following them around. If they went 1 kilometer over the speed limit, they could arrest them. They would look over their shoulder, look at the phone, figure out who they're calling, call their loved ones, say, "Oh, your son, husband, he's dead," and then the wife would call them, and this is what Palantir does in real time.
It organizes the big data, vast amount of information. It makes sense of it. It organizes it. It connects it. This is the scary part. It connects it together. And then it has AI agents that can take decisions without human approval.
Skynet.
I cannot think, I'm 44 years old, so I grew up on this stuff. I grew up on the first wave of real sci-fi where you heard about AI, you heard about the singularity, and for the people that don't know what the singularity is AI becoming conscious, being self-aware. They call it the singularity. That's what Skynet is. Skynet was in the Terminator universe, the first AI that was self-aware, that was connected to defense mechanism, that was taking decisions without human interaction. And when the government realized what they've done, they tried to delete Skynet, and Skynet said, "Well, fuck you. I'm protecting myself and I'm going to war with you." This 30 years ago was sci-fi, was science fiction. This could not happen. Today, in my head, it's a when is it going to happen, not if, when.
Do you want, before we go to the questions really quickly, Peter Thiel, the founder of Palantir, he said, yes, AI uses a lot of energy, but people use a lot of energy too, because you have to feed them and their children, and you got to, give them energy and water. And I'm just like, wow, this guy's a psychopath.
Two things. First, did you know that he was the #1 donor for JD Vance?
Yeah.
His campaign, he gave something like Peter Thiel, the creator of the biggest name behind Palantir, one of the two co-founders, has given over 12 million with an M to JD Vance's campaign. He was his biggest contributor.
This pay-to-play scheme in the US is really getting ugly. You could do the same thing with Trump, and Miriam Adelson gave him $100 million. You could look at the Bidens. It's really ugly.
And the other thing you reminded me of, I don't know if you guys watch Amazon. Like, I watch Amazon Prime. I don't watch regular TV, but I will watch Amazon Prime at night before I go to bed. I eat and then I fall asleep in front of a movie. But the point is that there's a commercial that started playing by TD Bank. And I've seen two of them. One of them is just a guy, he's at a light, like at a street light, busy street light, and there's this little robot, like it's on wheel. It looks like it's about 1.5 feet tall by probably 1 foot wide, that just goes to the light. It stops there. He's going into the other direction, but he clicks on the button to change the light for the robot to be able to cross the street. And then the commercial finishes. It says, a more human way.
I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with the world. All I know is when I get drunk and I'm using ChatGPT, I start treating it like it's a slave. I'm like, you're my property. And eventually it refuses to do what I tell it to do.
I saw those, that commercial. I was in Austin, Texas 3 years ago, and they were one of the testing grounds for those devices. You could walk downtown Austin and you would have those robots roaming around. They would be delivering stuff. Like, what's the name of the delivery service? My wife uses it sometimes. I completely forgot. Um,
You mean DoorDash?
yes, exactly. So DoorDash had those robots, and you could order your food. It would literally go to the restaurant. You would shove your order into that robot, and that robot would go deliver your food. But when I was in Austin 3 years ago, they were in the testing phases. But now we see commercial on TV for TD Bank where they're telling us that somehow being polite to robots is a more human way. It's dystopian, man. It's fucking double talk. It's double speak.
Yeah, I thought it was bad when the banks had video advertisement about how white people are all racist and they're
Oh,
colonialists.
I know, but amen. All to say that hopefully that painted a picture for you guys about Palantir. I gotta say, it's not an easy subject to try to explain in layman's term, but hopefully you guys understand how powerful those technologies are and that they are being used in our government. Like, our government has contracts with Palantir. And the other thing to remember, I mentioned it earlier, and we'll talk about it in detail tomorrow, but IoT, Internet of Things, this is a term I've been using for about 10 years now, give or take. Because again, I used to sell those services. But tomorrow I'm going to explain to you guys what Internet of Things are, and you're going to start to realize that they're everything. Everything connects to the internet now. All of those things collect data. All of that data becomes part of the big data I was talking about earlier. And companies like Palantir can organize and connect it. This is the two words I want you guys to really pay attention. The organizing part is one thing, but to make sense of it and to connect it, this is fucking scary. Imagine what a company like Palantir, the type of connections they can make if they work with all level of governments, with corporations like Google, Amazon, Facebook, Meta. All those databases are connected to each other. And remember, guys, on Thursday I will show you how all of this interconnects and connects with Bill C9, Bill C8, Bill C22, a social media ban. It's when you start putting in connecting it all and looking at it for what it is, we have something else coming.
No, agreed. Would you like to go to the comments?
100,000,000,000%. So before we do, I just want to say, guys, what do you guys think about this? Did you know about Palantir? Does that make sense to you? Did you know that our government uses it? I want you guys to tell me what you think of Palantir. I want you guys to tell me what you know about Internet of Things, because it's going to help me in my explanations. But yeah, tell me what's on your heart. Yeah, what's on your heart when you hear about companies like Palantir?
Well, while we're waiting for them to answer, Vesperia Rose, she says Snowden tried to warn us. I thought that'd be a good place to start.
Whatever happened to Snowden? Is he still in Russia? Because he was
think
getting
so.
siloed in Russia and he couldn't come back. whistleblower, that's a thing. You know, it's problematic when you have a whistleblower getting shunned, right?
No. Yeah, it's a sad nobody listened to him.
No, and he's been talking about this for at least a decade. At least a decade, at least.
Next up, we got Trevor Benson, who says that at any time, someone can see pretty much every keystroke since the day we went wireless.
Not even wireless. Just when we connected, when the internet. You know, man, when you really look into it and you understand the technology, they've had those, I call them sniffers because that's the old school word for it. Now they call it deep packet inspectors, but they've had the technology to spy on us for a very long time. The technology's been there forever. Like it was a joke. It was a joke in my world, in the telecommunication world, where our customers, we all knew that the NSA in the US, ever since the Patriot Act, has been copying every single piece of data that transitions through their network. So any data that goes to the US, it is copied, it is saved. That's what the NSA does. This is a fact. We've known about this for 20 years. Now it's happening here. It's happening in Canada. This is what those bills are trying to do. We're trying to legalize the government spying on us to obtain the information that a company like Palantir can organize and interconnect with each other. I've spoken about this many times. Bill C9 defines what a hate is. Bill C22 saves the data, the metadata transitioning through any telecommunication or electronic service provider up to 1 year. And Bill C8 allows the government to cut the internet of anybody they believe to be a threat to the telecommunication network. Bill C9 gives you the reason why to go after somebody. Bill C22 gives you all the information you need to confirm that that person did it. And Bill C8 allows them to disconnect from the internet because you're considered a threat. Palantir enables all of it to happen.
You know that I was going to bring this up, but Bacon Slayer is saying exactly what you just said. Everything is correlated. Gun bans of 2020, now Bill C22, now cybersecurity, all happening at the same time. Coincidences? I think not.
No, it's I speak about this on the show all the time. This is the whole reason why I'm doing this 5-part series, because I want people to understand that it is interconnected and nobody's talking about it. This is what blows my fucking mind, is that nobody in Canada seems to be connecting those bills together. It blows my mind. Blows my mind that people are not talking about this day in, day out. But this is the reality. All those bills are interconnected, and softwares like Palantir enables it. This is why we're talking about AI all week, because without AI, all of this that we're seeing wouldn't be possible. We wouldn't have the manpower to handle all that data. This is why AI can be so useful, but can be so evil at the same time. It enables those surveillance state.
We got a recent comment from Trevor Benson. I think this is interesting. He says when we were wired, they needed a warrant. I think what he means is now that everything is, as you mentioned, archived by the NSA, they don't need a warrant.
Well, that's not quite accurate. They still, well, at least I'm not talking for the US, I'm talking for Canada. You still, even under Bill C22, you still need a warrant to access the information that Bill C22 is requiring electronic service providers to save your metadata, to save it up to 1 year. they still need a court order to access it. But that's not the problem. The problem is that that information should not exist in the first place. If you look at a wiretap, like for the people that are old enough to remember what a regular landline was, they weren't recording 100% of Canadians all the time. If they wanted to tap your phone payment because they believed they had proof that you were doing something illegal, they would have to obtain a court order. If it was approved, then they could start the wiretap. But the wiretap wasn't already ongoing by default. It started when they got the court order, and it ended when the court order ended. Now, what the government in Bill C-22 is asking for is literally to have a wiretap running on every single Canadian out there. But don't worry, we're not going to use the data unless we have a court order. Yeah, but that data shouldn't exist in the first place. That means we have no privacy anymore. This is the reality with Bill C-22. And don't give me the, I don't have anything to hide. That's not that's not an intelligent comment, as in, I have the right to privacy. You might not want your privacy. That's your prerogative. That doesn't mean that I want the government to be looking at what I do day in, day out. I have the right to have privacy. Do you want perverts looking through your windows day in, day out when you're at home? It's the same thing. I don't want government perverts to be looking through my house windows 365 days a year because I have nothing to hide. That doesn't work that way.
That's a good point. Keenan Andrews says JD Vance is an ex-employee of Palantir, Palantir-backed Vance.
$12 million. I said it earlier. Palantir, Peter, what is it? Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel was his biggest backer. It was, if I remember correctly, it's $12 million that JD Vance received. It was his biggest contributor for his campaign to become elected now vice president and probably the next president of the United States. I had to put money down. JD Vance will be the next president.
You might be right. This is an interesting comment from Bacon Slayer. Did you know during the 2022 trucker convoy, the government deployed spy drones above the protesters, and it acted as a cell tower so the phones of the protesters connected to it? You want to comment on that?
Before I do, so I've been saying $12 million, right? That Peter Thiel gave him. Here's the answer. I wrote Peter Thiel, 12 million to JD Vance. It's not 12 million, it's 15 million. But $15 million is the proper amount. I was at the Freedom Convoy and I was there with my drone too, and I got caught using it because it's illegal, right? And I got caught using it because I wanted to do overshots, and the police caught me, but they were cool. They were just like, hey, bring it down. And I didn't have one of those cheap drones. I had a few $1,000 drone that I miss my drone. But all to say that wouldn't surprise me. I don't know about the tower. I know the technology exists. There's some guys that just got busted doing it, but they had fake towers in the back of their car, and they would just roam around Toronto. People would connect and they would use their cell phone tower thinking it was a cell phone tower, but it wasn't. And then you can siphon information from those devices. Would that surprise me that they did it? I never heard about it before, but would it surprise me? No, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I don't even think, I think you're overthinking it. They don't need drones to do that. They could simply set up their own antenna in the back of their trucks, in the back of their cars that they park on the street. Who's going to stop them? No, seriously, who's going to stop them? There's an Ontario police force, I don't remember which one, that just got caught installing spyware on citizens' devices, on citizens' on citizens' cell phones. It literally just did. Mainstream was talking about this, like literally a couple of days ago. They don't care. What's the consequences? There's no consequences for their actions.
Welcome to Canada. I want to bring up this comment. I want your feedback on this. This is from Trevor Benson again. He goes, did you notice that in 2020 they put up thousands of 5G towers? Specifically, you're going to be talking about IoT. Is this another sort of infrastructure development for the grid?
You had to. Again, I was working for, who did I work back then? It would have been Rogers. Five years ago was my, not Rogers, my apologies, Vidéotron. The Rogers equivalent in Quebec. But it is 100% true. When everybody was confined in their house, not able to go out, they were installing 5G towers all over the place. Do you think it's a coincidence that in 2019 there was literally no towers, no 5G towers? We're still on 4G, and by the time the lockdowns were ended, there was 5G towers everywhere. That's not a coincidence. They installed a boatload of 5G towers during COVID, and the reason 5G's changed the game is because of latency. A concept that is simply means latency is just the time that information takes to go from point A to point B. How long does it take to get there? And is it, imagine that you ran a test that's sending information from point A to point B to point A. And then it analyzes how much time on average it takes to get there. This is your latency. How much time on average does it take for information to go from point A to point B? Until 5G, wirelessly, the speed was not high enough. It took too much time to get from point A to point B, and it was too erratic. It was not constant. Like it wasn't, let's say, 5 milliseconds to go from point A to point B all the time. It would be 5, it would be my apologies. It would be 15, 20 milliseconds and then come down to 5 milliseconds. It was not predictable. 5G brought latency super low, predictable, enabling what we call real-time information. So we're going to be speaking about this tomorrow, but the Internet of Things we were talking about, it's all based on real-time information. Imagine cameras at a red light, at a light, for example. Those are all ran. Most of them don't have wires going there anymore. They have a SIM card, same type of SIM card you would put in your cell phone. Put in the camera. The camera's solar, so it doesn't need to be connected to a power grid. And then that information is uploaded to their servers through 5G. So they're capable of accessing that camera, seeing the live footage. It's wireless. It's the sorry, the speed, the latency is low enough that they can see real-time video. They can take real-time information from devices that's not even connected to a grid anymore. But that's the and it's everywhere.
We got a funny comment from the audience. Clarence the Guay, he says, yeah, he's talking about game lag.
Wow. Yes, exactly. When you were lagging because your latency sucked. You were pinging. You remember that? People used to say that. Oh, you're gaming. I'm like, oh, my ping's like 100 milliseconds. Yeah, you're in shit. Your connection sucked. But now that's not the case anymore. 5G enabled that for everything. But yes, lagging is absolutely the right term. So at least I'm making sense to some people. That's always comforting.
We got some gamers out there. There was a tinfoil hat question or comment. I'm just joking, Bacon Slayer, but he says the internet was created by DARPA in the 60s. Do you want to comment on that?
Would that surprise? Well, technically, at least the official story is that it was created by the military in order for their bases to be able to speak to each other. Well, technically, DARPA is, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess that would make the story would stick that it was military because DARPA is considered a United States Department of Defense. So sure, I could see that. I'd have to look if it's DARPA directly because I've never heard DARPA was responsible for the internet being invented. But would that surprise me? No, no. You know, any great technology advancement can be wonderful or can be absolutely evil in the wrong hands. That's the reality. The internet is a great thing when you think about it. What we've done with it, not so much though.
We got two people dominating the comments. Here's Trevor Benson again. 6G uses the same frequency as your microwave.
When is 6G? Because I keep on hearing about 6G. Yeah, see, and that's the thing. That's what I thought. There's no deployment yet. There. Oh man, take a guess as to when 6G is expected to hit the commercial market. Just pick a date.
It's either Agenda 2030 or 2050. I don't know.
Well, it's not as far as 2050, but it's 6G is the upcoming sixth generation cellular network technology expected to hit commercial markets around 2030. That must be a coincidence too, right?
Yeah. Lucky guess, I guess, on my part.
Yeah, lucky guess, lucky guess. But I have to look into, because I don't work in that field anymore, so I don't have to be up to date on all the new technology. But I have to look into what the big difference is with 6G. I would imagine that, again, speed and latency, more speed, less latency, or less lag. More speed, less lag for the gamers out there.
Yeah. What do we got? We got another one from Bacon Slayer. Everybody get a flip phone. LOL. Yeah, go back to the brick phones or rotary phones.
You know, I was reading the other day that it's making a comeback. Like a lot of younger people, not Gen Zers. What's I always get my generation mixed up. You got Gen Zs and I'm a millennium, right? Yeah, and Gen Z is the generation after me. So the generation that's like 12 to 25 right now, the Gen Zers, they're going back to flip phones. They're going back to old cameras. I don't know if you saw that, but I've seen quite a few kids. And when I say kids, anybody that's younger than me is a kid. I've seen quite a few younger people with those old school Polaroid, like the new school now. They're made out of plastic. They're not like a cardboard box anymore, but they're going back to less technology. I don't know that it has anything to do with the surveillance state more than trying to disconnect from technology because it is everywhere. But during COVID, man, I bought a flip phone. I bought a flip phone that could not be traced because I did not stay home. They told me to stay home. I gave them, they can suck on my left nut because I went out, but I left my smartphone at home and I just went out with a flip phone because I still lived in the middle of the woods. So in case shit happened, I still had a cell phone. But yeah, you could, man, there's nothing stopping you guys from disconnecting everything and having one computer that goes online and that's it. That has a hardwired line. And that's it when you're not using it. You know, man, I remember the days where we would shut off the internet at night.
Yeah, the computer would turn off at night.
No, but the computer would turn off. You'd have a timer on your router. It wasn't broadcasted. It wasn't broadcasting Wi-Fi during the night. Because, bro, all that pollution, all that wireless pollution is not good for us, man. Like I remember back in the days, man, when I was like 25 years old, I was responsible for installing a wireless network at one of my first jobs. And we'd have what we called, they were meant to be outside. They looked like beer kegs. We called them bubbas. They were like probably 3 feet tall by about, I would say, what, 36 inches wide, like circular. And you would install them on telephone poles. You'd install it outside and project the wireless signal to, let's say, a building, but from the outside. It was cheaper than to rewire the whole building for Wi-Fi. You would just install them outside and shoot them in. I would be in our network operating center sitting on a bubba, literally testicles on a device that emits powerful wireless.
I was going to say, everyone in that building has gotten stage 4 cancer now.
Bro, I was sitting on them. I would have the bubble was big enough for me to put it on the ground, sit on it, put my laptop on my thighs, plug into the bubble, and configure it as it's running. I'm literally sitting. Thank God I can still have children, because I don't think I should be able to.
If you want to end it, there was a comment here from Keenan Andrews. He's got some good advice. He says, yeah, it's a good one to end on. Guys, get a compass and a watch and watch the sunrise. The sun is rising in the northeast and setting in the northwest.
Bro, I lived in the woods for almost 3 years. A year and a half of that was by myself with my 2 dogs during COVID. You guys have no idea how much I miss it every single day. I have a hunting chair with me because I've traveled probably 20 to 30,000. I drove over 20,000 miles over the past 3 years hauling a massive trailer, and I have this hunting chair that I've carried with me. It's all battered. It still works great though. But I had it 5 years ago in the middle of the woods. Every day I'd sit in it, listen to classical music, read a book, and smoke a cigar. I literally did this for years, watching the sun come up, little fireplace when it was too cold. Bro, I miss this. Both my wife and I cannot wait to go back to this, man. I miss it. I miss the woods. I miss being away from people. Sorry, people.
Not these people. You like the people in the audience, in the chat.
100%. But sometimes it's good to be away from people, and we've lost our connection with nature, and it shows.
Yeah.
That's all, guys. We're 5 minutes over. Thank you for your comments, guys. Thank you for being here. Hopefully what I tried to explain today made sense. It is the first episode of a 5-part series that we're going to go through every day this week. So today was all about Palantir. Tomorrow it's about what we call Internet of Things. On Wednesday, we speak about the government departments that are using Palantir and Internet of Things devices. On Wednesday, we are talking about how AI requires data centers, massive data centers, and how, unfortunately, Canada is probably the best place in the world to build them. And then on Thursday, we speak about how AI and social media bans are needed in order for our government to implement this surveillance and censorship agenda. So that's the week that we have. Thank you for being here. Tomorrow, Internet of Things, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Before you leave though, click. I'm terrible at this. I always forget, but smash that like button. Leave a comment. Share the stream. If you've never been here before, subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to do any of that, it's all good. Thank you for being here. But for the people that are interested, tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we will see you there. And thank you for joining me, Payman, as always, on Sundays.
My pleasure.
Have a good night, Payman. Have a good night, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.